One McShucker, please.
I ordered a toasty at Macca's at like 9 o'clock at night, and it took 30 minutes.
30 minutes for a toasty. You know, you're taking the piss.
No, I'm not joking.
I saw my sister sent me a photo last night. Someone was waiting at the. You know how they time how long you got to get through the McDonald's?
Yeah.
Someone was waiting 800 seconds. What's 14 minutes for a McChicken?
No, but so they didn't have any toasties left, so they had to make it themselves, right?
It takes them 30 minutes to make a toasty?
Because they kept on getting called over by their manager because the manager was power tripping. It's the funniest fuck.
Fuck. I feel sorry for what do you call it, McDonald's workers.
Yeah. Alright, that's a good intro.
We're frauds.
It's France Olympics. He decides, I'll just break my mate's house and go make a sandwich.
Like you're moving like you're dancing. You look at this cha-cha-cha.
Welcome back, Nuffies, to Uneducated Nuffies show. It's week 3, episode 3. I am Jonty Perry. I am joined by...
Your favourite host of all time, Ethan Stone. What a week of sport there is. I've never been so happy to come out a weekend in my life.
I'm happy but sad at the same time.
Yeah, I'm glad you're sad because what we saw on the weekend was just like you got your glimpse of hope and then diminished.
Well, see, at least this time we weren't in the 8 all year. Anyway, we can come back to that later. When we actually did
Who's in the 8? Who's in the 8?
I mean, like 2022, man.
Da 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 da.
Not for long. Not for long. Anyway, how was your weekend, mate?
It was good. We watched a fair bit of sport. Caught up with a bit of the Premier League on the weekend. That's back. That was good to watch. Obviously, we know what happened on Sunday Arvo. We'll get to that later. That was very, very exciteful and just had a relaxing weekend. I think I was due for one. I think I was been partying a bit too hard recently. But what did you get up on the weekend?
You know what I did, mate? I got on the beers.
This is a miracle. No, you don't drink beers.
No, I don't. But I got on the piss. You know?
Big old cider boy here. Can't handle this beer.
I hung out with some mates from Bendigo that came down. So, got a nice little time with them. Watched a certain game in the back of a car. Because we were heading to a pub because I thought it was over.
Was it the deck?
Mate, we're in here.
Yeah, there's got to be a deck in Melbourne somewhere.
No, we went to the Provincial. Great place, the Provincial.
Yeah, but the Provincial's on the deck.
That's the point. We weren't at the deck.
I think we're due to go. If you don't know what the deck's a massive regional nightclub, and they're some of the best nightclubs in the world. I think we've done Bendigo. I think we're due for Shepparton now.
No, we're not doing Shepparton.
I think Shepparton and deck would be phenomenal.
Absolutely, the Crows were right in front of me.
We're going to engage with our mind.
Well, do you think they didn't come to play? Do you think they sat in their cars waiting for the game to start and go out there?
Geez, what a game we had on Saturday afternoon. A Twilight game, but it was surprising they put it on the Twilight show.
Well, I think when they first scheduled it, we were dead and buried by that point in that season. Like, we had that little comeback point, but there was this, knowing this final stretch, they probably thought, by this point, it's going to be over. And then we pull out an absolute farcical win. We should not have won that.
The fact that I don't know what Brisbane have at playing against the G, because it feels like they play well and then turn it off in the last quarter. Like they can't hold a lead going to that last quarter.
Anyway, if you want to know why, it's because Collingwood beat Brisbane, all right? Not surprising seeing they've done it twice this year again, which for a team that's not probably going to make finals because it has to have this most miraculous thing happen to make finals. They've beat you guys twice, Brisbane twice, and both those teams have now struggled. Yeah,
but it doesn't matter because right now, mathematically, you can still play finals. Yeah. But
no, that's what I just said. It's a miraculous thing would have to happen. But in the season where we've been shit, we've still beaten you twice. So the grand final rematch, number 2, plays actually MCG, so it's actual grand final rematch. Brisbane look like they coming out to play this time.
They started off so hot and it looked like it was going to be a blowout, but it looked like they were going to be in control of the game for the whole time. However, they were just not able to hold on to it. I think so many missed opportunities they had, and then Collingwood just feed off the crowd so well. Like, even when it looked like you guys were down and out with about 5 minutes to go, down by 4 goals, the crowd was still electric and still able to just keep the players wanting to play for the fans.
Yeah, well, is also probably the legacy of, well, not legacy, but the proving the point on the Lockie Schultz trade now. They're trying to, obviously Lockie Schultz is going to be repaying 2 first-round picks with the season he's had so far. It's not been worth 2 first-round picks. But that game, in that final quarter, where he stepped up right at the end, made that epic play at the end to get that second goal in a row.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, like, as much as I hate Collingwood, I was actually getting excited watching them come back because everyone loves an exciting game where it comes down to the wire. And Collingwood have had a knack to doing it. This year, they've probably struggled in that fact. They've lost a couple of close games, had 2 draws, obviously, where they probably last year would have won those games. And that's what led you guys to the grand final. Whereas this year, it sort of hasn't happened, but they've turned it on. But again, they've left it too late, and it's obviously still mathematically possible, like you said, but it's, in my opinion, down and out.
Oh, it's definitely down now. Like, there's no way we're scoring over 100 points on a team.
Yeah, you need a 200-point percentage bridge because percentage has probably been your biggest issue all year.
Every year we are like, we're not winning every single game. So like last year percentage was fine because we were winning every single game. So when we did lose, it wasn't by too much, other than the Hawks game, which was annoying. And it wasn't in a way that was impacting our percentage. Yeah. 2022 percentage was terrible. This year percentage is terrible. It happens every time we aren't winning.
Yeah. Whereas you look at someone like Brisbane, they've had a couple of losses here and there, but their percentage is still really good because they've had those big, massive wins.
Yeah, that's always a theme of Collingwood seasons. That's what we always complain about. We can't beat a team, but at the same time, like, we can't beat them by a lot, but we can beat them by a small amount. But to be fair, what you're saying about the comeback, how you're getting excited about it, I think that's a quality that this Collingwood side has in making the game likeable, like making Collingwood likeable, because the results are always so close and they always seem to come out on top. Now, sure, if your team is the recipient of it, then obviously not, but at the same time, it's a similar kind of scenario.
It's a great thing to have, but it's also something you don't want to rely on because you don't want to be winning games, especially against the lesser qualities, winning games just. You want to be able to have proven points. And again, look at example, the North Melbourne game. You just won that, but that's a game you should be winning. I know your form was terrible, but that should have been a 40, 50-point win. That's where your percentage boosts. Whereas that's been the issue where Collingwood can't do it against the lesser teams, and it hurts them, especially this year. Like, they've had obviously a down year compared to last year, but they've been able to compete, and not in a normal season, this would get you into finals or be pushing it, but percentage is obviously going to be the factor now.
Yeah, in such a tight season, normally this won't matter. Like, you look at most of the sides last year who made it in, their percentage isn't this good this year. Like, this year has been an absolute, like, the toughest probably in a while to be able to consolidate a spot.
Yeah, percentage has probably been the biggest thing you need this year to be playing finals. But look, they had a good run. I'll give them credit, but they've just fallen short. And obviously, it's agonising not being able to defend the premiership. So we obviously 99.9% sure we'll have a new premier by the end of next week. But what
look,
can you do?
To defend the title, you have to win one. So
we're still trying to figure that out.
Now, the other big game that day, the showdown. Yeah, Rochelle, mate, I understand you were talking about midweek, and it was funny. It was very funny. It's always funny to see the Port fans rile up. But win. Win, that's it. But
no, because I disagree, because I love seeing the chirp that he has. Obviously, they didn't win. Obviously, we know that Port Adelaide won in the end. But I think I love love the players having that sort of fire and wanting to just spark up the fans, especially when he kicked that goal. The way he gave it to the fans, that's what the AFL is missing. It's too, what's the word I'm looking for? It's too, not basic, but like fans are too scared to try and rile up opposition. And you don't see it much like you used to back years ago. And he sort of just not reinvigorated, but did it with the Port Adelaide fans. And that's what we need more in the AFL.
Well, my issue with it more is around, so Mason Cox, I applaud him for it because it's funny when he does it, because he's actually like terrible at playing football, but he's at least backed it up with winning a grand final. You know, he has something behind his belt. Rochelle has had probably his worst season in the AFL out of his three.
Yeah, but you forget he's still very young.
Yeah, and at the same time, yes, Adelaide went in front with that goal, I think it was, right? Still, at that point, I would do it in the third or fourth quarter, where it's less likely to it's you know what's going to happen at this point.
But But that even wasn't the talking point out of the game. Obviously, the Dan Houston hit on Isaac Rankin, and we hope Isaac Rankin is okay. But that's got to be a fair few weeks. That was, if you watch the game, that was the turning point. That's where, obviously, Port were able to take control. But I'm just going to bring up, Port fans, you guys are a disgrace. Booing a bloke that your team can cast off the ground when he doesn't even know where he is astronomically poor. No wonder you guys are the most hated fan base in the world, because that was an absolute disgrace.
Well, once again, it's Port fans. So, like, take that with a grain of salt. There's not much thought going in there. They are angry at us over the prison bars, which is the funnier part. We probably could give it up and they will still be angry with us over loads of time. Isaac Rankin, this is what Kingy's always been saying. Kingy all year has been going, Isaac Rankin's the best player in the comp. He's not the best player in the comp, but he's the most invigorating player to have on your team because he's just so creative. And Adelaide, their midfield is clean-cut, free players. Laird, Crouch when he's actually playing, and Dawson. They're all just so clean cut. Having Rankin go in there, play those centre clearances, play on the ball. He is just an elite talent at making the Adelaide midfield play better.
Yeah, I agree. But I think with what Houston did, obviously he's going to get, it looks like they're saying anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. What I think is fair. They've set the standard with obviously Rankin got 4 weeks for his hit. You've seen Peter Wright. You've seen a fair few other players. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they've set the standard. I look at it's a 5-week hit. Careless intent. Obviously, the outcome with him having a major concussion, obviously it wasn't in the impact. It was the follow-on effect where it obviously hit the ground hard. But it's something, obviously, the AFL are trying to crack down on. And I think this could be very interesting because you look at the way Port are going and potentially playing a grand final. Now Dan Houston might miss out on the grand final chance.
Well, that's probably what Port will be trying to do. They'll probably try to plead guilty early if they really wanted to try it. They should plead guilty early, which they haven't done. Or they should just contend with the length, because if Port realistically have 2 chances at this point, they are going to be having 2 chances. Is that going to be happening if you're going to be able to win either of those with Dan Houston gone? Maybe not. But if you're going to prelim where Dan Houston could be an actual contender, like to help you out, you don't want to be sitting on the sidelines with suspension.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. I think he's a great asset off halfback for them. He really sort of reinvigorates their movement from halfback into their forward 50. And I think he is that player that, obviously there's rumours of him moving, but he's one of their key pieces to Port. And obviously you got him, Butters, Rosie. I think Ollie Wines has really started to hit his form in the back end of the season. But he's someone, if they want to win a flag, I think he has to be playing. But now that he's done this, I don't see him getting to the grand final because I don't see him getting less weeks than what they're going to play.
It's going to be tough for him to try and make it. Even if Port were to make it, it's tough to argue a case where he doesn't miss out. It's going to be tough to try and find that. Now, mate, we'll get off the Port Adelaide game. Do you want to discuss how happy you are, or
what a Sunday afternoon that was? I've never been so scared going into a game than so happy by the end of it. Obviously, we all know Carlton's injury list is growing and growing. Now, after the weekend, obviously we had 1 more injury, so we can now field a team with just our injury list. And our team on our injury list could almost beat our team we produced on the weekend. But I think with everyone doubting us out and seeing that performance really I think it's changed the momentum, how people are viewing Carlton this season. I know West Coast are a shit team and they've had a lot of issues, but for people who were saying they were going to beat us and then to come out and prove how good we were, I thought it was a phenomenal performance from the boys.
Now, yeah, everyone gave you shit for a West Coast. Like, everyone was saying West Coast. And then I was realising as the game was happening, like, wow, I really just said that West Coast was going to beat Carlton. And then I'm looking at the list and I go, fuck, their midfield's so bad. Like, Harley Reid probably had his best game in a while.
He had a very good game. I'll give him that.
Yo had a decent game. Gaff tried to get some reinvigoration in the first quarter and then kind of fell off after that for his 300th game.
I just think that their midfield into their forward line, they had only 2 or 3 good work because I think our defense was set up so well because we haven't really lost many of our defenders. We still had the likes of Wiedering, who, in my opinion, is in all-Australian form. He hasn't had one of the last 3 years, but my God, is he ever a chance now? You had McGovern had a great game. Nick Newman is still performing like he always does. You have the like of Lewis Young, who can't kick a footy to save his life, but can actually impact a contest. It allowed for our midfielders to work, and then our ball movement from the midfield into the forward line looked so much cleaner.
It did. It looked pretty impressive, and I think if you can perfect it next week, because you'll still have to perfect it next week, you probably can still use it going in the finals if you can make it.
And especially when you have the likes of Charlie and Harry come back in, it's going to just make it going into the forward 50 much harder for opposition, because right now the defenders think they're just going to send it long, we can impact a contest. But when they see, Carlton can actually feed it inwards, it makes them think, do we have to worry about them feeding it inward like they did on Sunday, or they're going to go along to Charlie Harry? There's more they're thinking about. But I just want to give a quick shout out to someone who surprised me on the weekend, Brody Kemp, who is a backman and has only kicked 2 goals in his career, goes forward to play against Jeremy McGovern, and then kicks 4 goals, takes a screamer of a mark, and has probably his best game he's had for the club.
Yeah, well, it's a good performance. Look, you did take a page out of the book of the Collingwood way against Harris Andrews with Billy Frampton, but this is probably a bit more successful because Billy Frampton sucks at kicking at goals or anything. Brody Kemp, very good game. Do not say he's a dangerous forward, though, because I know you've been saying that. He is not a dangerous forward. He had one good game.
He's not dangerous for it, but he was a great option as a tall for us. Obviously, he's not going to get a game in the forward line over Harry or Charlie, but he was a great option for like a third tall we can have in that forward line. I reckon it's going to be interesting to see if they do want to keep testing him as that forward who can play against the best defender, then putting him back, because he was okay off the back line, but I think having him as that defensive forward actually works for him.
It probably would. My only real concern is that if you have Charlie come back, you have Harry come back, the players aren't going to go on him, like the one that you want. He's not going to go tag him. You're just double teaming a player basically, like in the forward line, which makes no sense. So that's my kind of concern on that one. But good week for him and good win for you guys. I'm happy for you.
Finals are back on the table. Come on, baggers!
Delusions.
Bossy's back on. We're never going to sack you ever.
You literally, your whole fan base was talking about that last week. Now also, we now have only 4 teams, because I'm not counting us. We're not making it. There's 4 teams that can physically go. One team has to miss out. It's Freo, who are currently out. You guys, Doggies, Hawthorn. Now, Hawthorn pretty much have a lock. They've got North. If they lose that game, then something's going incredibly wrong. Freo has the toughest one. They've got Port. Doggies have Giants, but it's at Ballarat. So I'd almost say it's a lock to make it through.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think the Doggies could be in a bit of trouble here. I don't think they'll drop out, because I think Freo will lose to Port Adelaide in that final game in Optus. But I think the Giants are, again, in really good form. They want to cement their top 4 spot. I think they've already got cemented anyway. But they want to prove to the top 4 that they're a dangerous team. I reckon I could see them winning that game.
I don't know. There's one thing that I know in life, and that's if you go to Ballarat to play the Doggies going to win.
Yeah, but you got to remember, Bevo just put a good masterclass against North. Obviously, them not being the greatest team. But you never know what Bevo's going to bring. But the Giants have a bit more consistency with Adam Kingsley in the helm, and you know what you can get from them. But the Doggies and Bevo, I don't know what to trust.
I still think there's going to be one game that Doggies want to win, and it's at the Ballarat. That's my thought process. And then you guys play the Saints, and the Saints are in good form for their standards anyway. And they do have one thing which could stop you, which is actual good defense against small players. They can actually defend small players.
Yeah, but I feel like they're going to try and push either Harry or Charlie. One of them to come back, probably Harry, in my opinion.
Charlie should not come back before.
I think you rest Charlie, you keep Kemp down the forward line, you bring in Harry, just so we have that tall option. And I think Jack Martin might be available as well too.
Even then, Jack Martin might not have an impact that you.
That doesn't. You just need him to be able to just contest and just if we get to the ground, and then our smalls can work, because they've proven they can do it.
Anyway, these 4 games are going to be the tough games for the week. They will probably cover next week. These games are going to be so important. And yeah, I still think that you'll probably make it out of the finals.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think St Kilda are a good opposition, but I think even with our midfield and their weakened forward line against our defense is going to struggle. And I feel like our midfield is just going to topple over them, because they're still one of the most dominant midfields in the comp. And I think you can't stop Cripps. Like, he's not taggable. And even if you do tag him, then you got Walsh, who can be a major impact player.
But the only thing I have against that is that St Kilda probably have the best opportunity to tag in, midfield in there. Jack Steele can play one-on-one if he needs to. They have Severos. They have... they want to bring in Jones. They can bring in Zach Jones. Like, they have players who can play on players.
I just don't know where they're going to get their goals from, St Kilda.
Well, look at them in the last 2 weeks. They kicked 100 points in both those games. They're finally finding out their forward line outside of King. There's something there, and I think you're probably underestimating what St Kilda are.
We can agree to disagree, but I'm gonna not agree with you there.
Fair enough. Your delusion will get you one day. Let's now talk about some of the key stories throughout the week. It's all trade stuff. It's end of the year. It starts getting trade stuff. Shea Bolton today has been reported. There's two conflicting reports. So John Ralph reported that Shea Bolton is asked for a trade. He wants to go back to Perth, either Freo or West Coast. Now, only a couple of hours later, Tom Morris has said that Bolton has said that he would like to explore a trade, but he's never requested a trade. And he's still happy to stay at Richmond as long as there's no viable trade back.
I'm interested to see how this plays out because obviously Richmond are going to be losing players in the likes of Rioli, Short, Baker. There's a couple of names already on their list that are wanting to move. So if you lose Shai Bolton, who I think is still one of their most impactful players when he's fit and playing good footy, but I probably see him leaving because I think Richmond are looking in a different direction, and that's probably not the direction he's after. And I reckon the destination will be free. I think they got the picks there they can use, and at least with Fremantle, they're still looking to compete for finals, whereas West Coast is still trying to rebuild.
Well, you look at Bolton probably comes in to replace Liam Henry in the end of it because Henry going to the Saints probably doesn't look like as big as it was, but having that wing forward option that can go in the middle if you need to is something that's so valuable right now in the AFL.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how it goes, but I'm looking more at the way with the Dan Houston story now. Obviously, him going to get probably 4 or 5 weeks and could go into next season, obviously a new club, but Port have come out saying they want a minimum 2 first-round picks for Houston. Obviously, he's still contracted with the club till 2027, I believe.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see who's going to actually want to give up 2 first-round picks. It is a lot for... Obviously, he was an All-Australian last year, but is a club willing to risk that much on a future, especially in a club like Melbourne, who are named as one of the main people going for them when they're almost near the end of their premiership window?
Well, you also look at the fact that most of the teams that need players need it in other positions. You probably look... The only teams that may need it is Collingwood, which they don't have the capital for. You look at teams, probably not much else.
Well, like the Can't would have it, but again, we don't have the capital as well.
And even then, you probably don't need him. In realism to what you need, you probably need another forward, another key defender. You don't need a wing back. Like a wing fullback.
No, because I think our wing back is weaker than our key defence. Obviously, we need a lot of things at the moment, but I think it could be interesting. I don't think he'll come to Carlton. I don't think he'll go to Collingwood, but I don't know where he goes because Melbourne clubs want to give up 2 first-round picks for someone they don't desperately need. Like, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but for someone who's not going to change them, but a massive upgrade for what they need, if it's worth those 2 first-round picks.
Well, you could do the funny thing. Richmond will need a player. They'll need any player.
Yeah, but he would decline the trade, unfortunately, to that place.
And the other major news we'll come back to later on in my segment is Petrarca asking for a trade out of Melbourne. Now, this has just been the story of Melbourne's season. Petrarca going out mid-season obviously hurt, but now at this point, it's a discussion we need to have about Melbourne.
I'm very excited to hear what you're going to be talking about, but I think this could be the trade of the decade, in my opinion. I'm going to put that out there as a strong, bold claim.
Now, modal medal time. Now, it's only 2 weeks worth of votes left. This is 1 week. There's one more week after this. And the race is hotting up.
Yes.
There's only 2 horses, but the race is hotting up.
And we can confirm that the list is now finalised. We've gone through it, made sure that every round is correct. And we have both agreed on this now, but it's very close. We're going to start off with Essendon versus Sydney. We gave 1 vote to Ollie Florent, 2 votes to Nick Martin, and 3 votes to himself, Isaac Heaney.
Now, the Suns-Melbourne game, we had 1 vote going to Blake Howes, 2 votes to Ed Langdon, and 3 votes to Jack Varney.
And the next game was Jerry West versus Fremantle. We gave 1 vote to Jesse Hogan, 2 votes to Tom Green, and AFL Fantasy best for his career, Brent Daniels, 3 votes.
Now, for my personal favourite game of the round, we had Jeremy Howe getting 1 vote, Josh Dunkley getting 2 votes, and Nick Dacos getting 3.
Now, for the showdown game, we gave Jason Horn-Francis 1 vote, Ollie Wines 2 votes, and 3 votes to the medal winner himself, Zach Butters.
Now, St Kilda's upset over Geelong did give them some votes. 1 vote, Royal Marshall, 2 votes, Cal Wilkie, and 3 votes, Jack Steele.
Now we go to the Bevo Masterclass game. We gave 1 vote to Joel Frazier, 2 votes to Adam Treloar, and 3 votes to the 7-goaler, Sam Darcy.
Now, in the Hawk celebration show, we had 1 vote going to Dylan Moore, 2 votes, Jack Gunston, and 3 votes going to John Newcomb.
And we looked at the best team for the round versus West Coast. Brody Kemp getting 1 vote, Jacob Wiedering 2 votes, and 3 votes to himself, the king, Patrick Cripps.
Now, that means the top 5 is getting tighter in the top 5. So 5th place, there's 4 players. There's Lockie Neal, Royal Marshall, Isaac Heaney, and Zach Butters, all on 23. 4th place is Adam Treloar, who, once again, quietly having a great season because people are starting to recognise it, but still. Number 3, Zach Merritt getting 25. Then 2 is Nick Dacos on 27. Now, he's the only player who can contend with Paddy Cripps right now. Paddy Cripps is on 30. Paddy Cripps has to hold 1 vote to get the first medal, aka if he wins, Cripps medal.
I love that name.
If not, it's going to be a tie. If Nick Dacos can get 3.
It's really been a back and forth. Obviously, Dacos getting 3 votes this round, thinking he could catch up, and then Cripper goes and probably has his best game for the year and does that and just extends his lead by a little bit more.
It's going to be a tough catch up if Dacos wants to try and get involved anyway. It's pretty much Cripps' medal. Let's be real.
Cripps' medal to lose, indeed.
Yeah. Now to the round ball game, the better football. It's football season again. Most of the leagues are starting up. Premier League came back. We'll talk about that more over the season. But I wanted to highlight over 1 player this round. Now, Massimo Luongo, Asian Cup hero. Now, back in 2015, when we won the Asian Cup, he got man of the match with a goal in the final to win it for us. He didn't get the win goal, but doesn't matter. And everyone thought his career was going to be great. He was like, oh, he's going to move to the Championship or a Prem. He'll be at the same level of Jedinak, I think, was probably the best comparison, which is a solid CDM in the Prem. Now, never really lived up to that. He had some decent seasons, but never quite lived up to the hype. And 2 years ago, so 2021-22 season, he goes to Sheffield Wednesday. Sorry, he's at Sheffield Wednesday. He's having a struggling team. He leaves at the end of his contract and goes to Middlesbrough. Now, that's fine. Doesn't play a single minute. Not a single minute for the half a season he signed on for. It looked like it was over for him. Come back to Australia. Get what you want. Ipswich pick him up, and they're in League 2. So League 1 at the time. League 1. 2 years later, he is the starting CDM alongside Sam Morsey in the Ipswich side that's playing in the Prem. Like, it's ridiculous how quickly he's gone from being completely done to a Premier League starter.
Yeah, and you look at the performance. Obviously, a tough game in the game week 1 against Liverpool for Ipswich Town, and obviously conceding 2-0. But they had a really good start, and I think the jump going from League 1 to Prem, especially for a team, is phenomenal. And yet alone, Massimo Luongo, who obviously, like you said, was almost taken out of being that sort of impact player and compared to the likes of, obviously, like you said, Yendak. But to go, the leaps and bounds he's taken has been astronomical. And I think he's really proven that he can be a player that a team like Ipswich can rely on.
It's crazy to think that this is his career trajectory. And he's also alongside Cam Burgess, who didn't play in that Ipswich side, but definitely will get minutes over the season. But it's so crazy to think that we're in a world where 2 years ago he went to a side which is exactly the same as pretty much Sheffield Wednesday and is now a full-on Premier League player.
Yeah, it's great work to see an Australian make the leaps and bounds that he's taken, especially in a squad like Ipswich, who have really sort of been that fairy tale team the last 2 years with the likes of maybe a Wrexham that have just gone from league to league and just showing that they can keep going one better than what they've done.
Yeah, that's big thanks to Kieran McKenna. He's had a great time at Ipswich. Now we'll move on from Ipswich to the main man that's been hyped up all off season, Nestor Irankunda. Now his pre-season was amazing for someone who's just come to Bayern, playing minutes, getting assists. Now he didn't make on the field, but he was in the squad for Bayern for the DFB Pokal game. Now it was against the shit side. Let's be honest, it was against the shit side. But if he's still involved in the squad right now, I don't see why not. He's not getting like any minutes this season. He'll get some game time, which is incredible for someone who only a year ago we were talking about how his mental issues, he's a raw young talent. Like he's a teenager. He needs to have mental development. Over the course of only 3 months being at Bayern, he's already considered a squad player.
It's really amazing to see a talent come out of Australia and really prove it at a massive international club in Bayern Munich, especially as a winger with likes against Sane, Elise, the big European names who are obviously at the Euros and still being in that squad shows that he is a massive raw talent who could be the future for Bayern and Australian football.
It's going to be insane to see. Now it's only early in the season, so there's plenty of time for something to happen, but this is a promising sign for someone who we thought might take years to get involved in the squad. Now, the other major young news was Alessandro Ciccardi making his debut in the Serie A, coming back up with Parma. He had played the full 90 minutes, so once again, a young centre-back playing full 90 minutes. Great to see, and played very well.
It's great to see some young Australian talent going well, especially in the Serie A. It's still a very strong league, very known for its defense excellence. Obviously, there's been some great Italian defenders to come out of that competition, but he's done very well. But one thing I also want to touch on is seeing that Harry Souttar has finally got his move from Leicester City, where he's struggled for so long. He's moved on loan to Sheffield United and had his debut in the Championship and looked like he went okay.
He only got the few minutes, but it's something to look forward to because after last season, even a Championship, not getting many minutes, it's necessary for him to get some game time. Like, it's the number 1 point.
Taylor Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday! Not yet, he hasn't. Beauty! Boland's got 6 at the G! Build the man a statue!
What are you doing here? Oh, just listening to some Spotify, mate. Yeah, just listening to some tunes.
Cricket Australia announced a special test to be hosted in March of 2027 between Australia and England to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the Ashes. And I think this is an amazing thing that Australia and Melbourne are going to get to experience.
Well, for one, I hate the Poms, so it's the perfect thing. If we win the 150th anniversary of the Ashes on home soil, there is going to be no better feeling.
Obviously, this is a one-off test, and I believe we're playing England next summer in Australia for the Ashes, and this will be a year when I believe England will host the Ashes over there. It's just a one-off test, but I think it's going to be cool to see an exhibition test between the two, because obviously we always get the Ashes tests over in England, five matches. Just a one test to sort of see and sort of commemorate what happened 150 years ago. Obviously, the famous test where Australia beat England and the England people burnt the Ashes, creating the urn we have here today, and it is unbelievable to see that they actually given it commemoration for what they've done.
That's the real one, isn't it?
Yes, we actually were able to get the real Ashes out of Lords.
Yeah. But yeah, it's great to see. I don't watch cricket that much. Comes around test time against England or against any side really during Boxing Day, because Boxing Day can be boring as shit. Like, that's when you want to watch.
It's great to see. As well, Cricket Australia announced that the Boxing Day test is now locked in at the MCG until 2030-31 summer, as well as Adelaide, Perth and Sydney have all locked in test matches till 2030-31. However, Brisbane will be missing out and will only host tests till 2025-26. But it's interesting to see Brisbane are missing out hosting after 2025-26. Obviously, Australia have won their 42 times, drawn 13, tied once, and only lost their 10 times. Their percentage win rate is at 63.64%. Now, if you look in comparison to the other grounds, Adelaide have a win percentage rate of 54.88, Melbourne at 57.76, Sydney at 54.46, and Perth at 56.82. Australia have always dominated at the Gabba, and it's really shocking to see that Cricket Australia aren't taking advantage of that.
Well, you're probably looking at it as it's probably not the greatest market, and everything nowadays, unfortunately, about sport is about the market you can get. So Melbourne, easily, best market you can get. Look at Adelaide. Adelaide's got a pretty good market nowadays. Perth, Optus Stadium, big stadium, and then Sydney Cricket Ground, like it's synonymous. Brisbane, I don't know that same feeling happens at the Gabba. It's probably the one where Cricket Australia probably said, if we took out all these, we won't miss this one.
I want to agree with you, but I think that you got to look into the fact that Australia have always played really good cricket at the Gabba. Obviously, they've had 2 recent losses to the West Indies in 2024 and then India in 2021. But it's normally known as a dominant place where Australia play well. It's normally been that opening test for the summer. You look at the likes of, in recent history, the things that have happened there. You had Mitchell Starc take that first wicket in the Ashes. You had Peter Siddle take his hat-trick on his birthday. You look at the likes of the tied test match against England in 1960. Shane Warne had his career best figures at the Gabba. You had Ian Botham's last great test innings. But it's always been a really good deck to bowl on. It's always been a pitch that provides plenty of bounce, swing, and a regularity for the bowlers. And it provides wicket. Obviously, you look at the test match in 2022 against South Africa where it ended in 2 days. It wasn't very good. Obviously, you want tests to go for the more 4 or 5 days. You get better crowds. It makes the test more interesting. But I think that even though in marketability, the Gabba is not the best, it's probably got that history of being that opening test, and especially surprising with the Olympics coming in 2032. They don't want to promote the ground, try and get international fans looking at the Gabba saying, hey, this is going to be somewhere where the 2032 Olympics is going to be hosted at. Let's try and see what this ground looks like and give it a bit of, show what it can do, at least in cricket. Obviously, you get it in AFL, and they have a rugby game here and there. But I think Cricket Australia have made an incorrect decision here, and they should actually look at bringing it back, obviously, because of the Olympics and that their record they have there.
It's a good point around statistics, because statistics always tell you what actually happens. The Olympics is a shambles, and we already know about it. It's publicly known that the Olympics is a shambles, and it's probably something that they don't want to promote, honestly. They want to probably try to get rid of. That's in talks. So that kind of argument for a cricket, like a test series, it could be right, and realistically they have cricket still at the Olympics. They'll be playing at the Gabba, or they might play it at People's First, which that's gonna be weird as hell.
That would be weird seeing that. But I think you look at other test teams. You take example England. They obviously, Lords is probably their most famous ground, or Old Trafford, even Trent Bridge are probably their 3 most famous grounds. But that's where they have their 3 least amount of winning percentage there. I think Lords is at 39.73, you got Old Trafford at 38.10, and Trent Bridge at 36.36. But you see recently they've had a really good win percentage at Edgbaston at 53.57 and even Headingley at 45.68. I think they're taking advantage of that now, seeing that they play really well at here. Obviously, you look at Headingley, they've beaten us twice there in the last 2 Ashes. Obviously, the famous one where Ben Stokes put in the masterclass to win on that final day, and they're taking advantage of that. So why shouldn't Australia be taking advantage of such a good record they have at the Gabba?
Well, to be fair, you look at our own stats. We have better win percentages at all our places, like compared to where England have it. But they play a lot more on those places. We normally travel a lot more. Like you look at what we have. We probably are looking at it. We want to look at different markets. That's my main point on that, and it's probably wrong. But in this point in time, where every single sport is facing its market crisis, because they all want to make sure their market is absolutely growing, it's probably not time to have to go up.
Yeah, I think Cricket Australia should at least revisit it and look at the statistics and see that that Australia seem to have a really good record there and should take advantage of that, especially in the test against India. Obviously, they'll be playing there in the 5 test series coming to Australia this summer. But I think it's something that should be revisited and looked at.
All right, so there's one part in the podcast you want to choose to watch. This is the part you want to watch, Melon of the Week. It's our favourite segment. It's everyone's favourite segment. That's all I've heard. I haven't heard anything else.
Yeah, we all love a melon, but you don't want to be on this list. This is the one list you want to avoid being on, because you know what? You don't want to be called a melon, do you?
No. Well, why would you? Like, what type of melon?
A watermelon.
But there's like rock melon.
You just don't want to be a melon.
Okay.
And being on this list, try to avoid it.
As we do every week, there are 5 entities, basically, that we look at. And number 5 this week, Gold Coast Suns. Can you just win at home, please? It's gone from being unstoppable there to losing to Brisbane only a few weeks back. and now losing to Melbourne, who are you beat up in the north earlier in the year. Like, come on, guys.
It baffles me. You really need to fix it up. But number 4, we have Cricket Australia. As previously stated, I think they made a wrong decision with removing the Gabba after 2026. And it's just like, it's the wrong time to announce it. Obviously, you have the Olympics coming up. Obviously, it's in the shambles, like we said, but you need to market it. And the best way to market it is put it on the world stage. You have teams like England and India all come into it. Obviously, you'll have games played there at the Gabba. Just market it more.
Number 3 was Josh Roselli. Like, come on, man. You're going to do to, like, at least win it, please. Like, just a little bit. Like, that's all you need to do.
It was very silly. I get the banter they were trying to, not the banter, but the energy and the riling up they were trying to make, but especially when you get close and then get it blown out. It's not a good look. But at number 2, we have the NRL commentary team. I have never watched a sport what biasly hates a club more than the NRL commentary team. I watched the game between Melbourne Storm and Penrith Panthers, and I've never seen the commentary team want Melbourne Storm to lose more in their life. They just have a hatred towards it. I get we're not one of the rugby states, but you can't have such a big bias towards your Sydney and Brisbane teams and not even care about the Melbourne teams. We're up by 2 points going with like 2 minutes to go, and all the commentary team are cheering on Penrith. Like, you got to keep unbiased here. We're not having these biased acts that just create inequity just because you don't like that Melbourne have a good team. Come on, you're a melon.
It'd be fair, it's NRL. Like, what do you expect?
It's irrelevant.
Anyway, number 1. Now, this one was a funny one. I can't believe this happened, and I think everyone's been laughing at it for the last, like, other than the Arsenal fans. Yerson Mosquera. Now, he's a young guy, fair enough. Don't know what the fuck he's doing. So, it gives a little bit of tap on Gabriel Jesus in the game. Didn't get sent off, which most of the time, stuff like that, you get sent off for. And it's just so weird. Like, what was the point of that?
He loves playing with buns. What can he say?
Well, I don't know. We can say that, but yeah, must be the case. Okay, well that's fair enough then. Yerson Mosquera, you are the melon of the week. All right, so I said I was going to come back to this later on, and here it is. The downfall of Melbourne. Christian Petrarca has asked for a trade, and at this point, we need to understand just how bad this large problem at Melbourne is. Now, we all were in lockdown during what was Melbourne's grand final. Now, they came out and won by 74 points, but I want to go back real quick because Melbourne didn't really have that good run the year before. In their lockdown shortened season, they finished 9th, didn't make finals. Next season, they go on, win the flag in the second half of the grand final, pretty much. Doggies looked like they're going to win maybe up until the second half. In the second half, Melbourne absolutely run away with it. From this point onwards is where Melbourne shifts. All right. So 2022, they start off winning 10 games straight. Then they lose 3 games in a row to Fremantle, Collingwood, and Sydney. Now, not in that row, in that order, but 3 in a row against 3 teams that made finals in that year. And it completely derailed their hopes for a season, like, at all. They ended up still finishing second. They had 6 more wins for the season. Like, that was enough to get them second at the time. And then they bow out straight away. Straight sets. Go out to Sydney and then lose at the Brisbane as well. What a waste of a season. You're thinking their title offense, they did a good job in the regular season, go out in the finals in straight sets. Melbourne, fair enough. You had a crack last year. You'll be back next year. Next season, they pretty much do the same thing again. They finish top 4, not as high up this time, a little bit more shaky. End up making it into the second chance spots. And then they go out Collingwood. Now, that game, obviously, Melbourne looked like they were a better team, but then Collingwood just defended well enough. And they lose to you guys. And you never stop talking about it.
I love that game.
Now, at this exact point is when Melbourne go from being a potential dynasty to shitting the bed more than I've ever seen. Now, let's start off with the Brayshaw incident, retiring him. That's something you can't do. Concussion history, one final blow. I don't like the fact that Maynard gets blamed for everything. He didn't have every single concussion beforehand. He just had that one final concussion. Don't blow it out to one person. But then Clayton Oliver, all year, is he going to Adelaide? Is he going to leave Melbourne? Do Melbourne really want to give him a new contract? They do. And about a month later, Oliver has a lot of off-field stuff. Now, we're not going to go into all of that. That is what Melbourne did in the end. And Oliver, he's actually looked fairly decent second half of the year, this year, but he's still way off what he was beforehand. He's not the Brownlow threat that we always seen beforehand. Simon Goodman is number one criticised for the culture he's built at Melbourne. We can probably come back to that in a second. But also the tactics, because their forward line issues have always been an issue even since they've won the flag. Yes, they had a great grand final, but beforehand, their forward line was the most shaky part. And continuously, the defense is still solid. In 2021, they were first. 2022, they were first. So this is for points allowed. 2023, they were third, which is still very high for a team. This year, 7th, which for a team that's currently outside the top 10, that's pretty good. Like, only St Kilda is probably better at defending. And that's saying something. St Kilda don't score or do anything. But their forward line's always lacked. Bailey Fritsch hasn't been the same since he's been good. Let's not say that. He's still been good. But he's never been consistent enough since the 2021 flag. Cozzy Pickett is the most inconsistent player in the comp. The rest of their forward line's shocking. Josh Shackey should not be on a contract in 2024. There's a reason why Melbourne always look for a forward. Van Rooyen is a young player, could develop. Daniel Turner could be a good player when he develops. Chandler's been decent enough, but he's not a long-term solution. Training for Shane McAdam, who has done nothing. Like, it's the forward line Melbourne should be really addressing. They don't. They try to. They try their best, but they just can't. Ben Brown, who retired literally just half an hour before this show started recording. Like, another failed experiment. It's something which Melbourne probably needed to address, and Goodman probably should have tried to absolutely target for the last 3 years. Never did. And they're in the right way anyway. Then the culture part, obviously the Oliver stuff. There's obviously a lot of talks around what happens in Melbourne. Joel Smith's case, that's a massive case for a club to have. And you just see these pieces after pieces after pieces leaving or having issues. And you go from seeing this team, which could have had a dynasty. Max Gawn probably will still play 3-4 years. You would have had Max Gawn, who's one of, if not the best ruckman of all time. You have a midfield which has Christian Petrarca, Jack Viney, and Clayton Oliver, who has issues now. But still, 3 amazing midfielders. You could have had a forward. Brayshaw didn't have his concussion, obviously. You look at their defense. The defense is still an elite defense. And what was the dynasty is now going to end with Petrarca leaving, and their midfield, who is already very light, completely gone.
Yeah, well, considering a team who everyone looked at being one of the strongest teams of the last 6 years, they've only made 2 preliminary finals and only won one. They lost obviously in 2018 that prelim to West Coast, what led them to that grand final, or West Coast grand final, and then they won in 2021 where they won the flag. Obviously, won a great grand final. But I think they've just had steps here and there that have slowly just built up, and then it's hit a peak where it's all just crumbling down. I think they went for, obviously, Ben Brown to try and fix that situation they had in the forward line. What at the time was a great decision. Ben Brown came off winning a Coleman, I believe, or in the year or two previously, and he really sort of was shown as a great key forward. And it was a great decision at the time when they got him, but it just never worked out. And then they've always had that issue, like you said, in that forward line. You can't rely on the likes of Bailey Fritsch, who isn't a tall forward. They obviously, it worked out in the grand final, he kicked 6, but that's something you can't be relying on every week. And I think the biggest issue that came out of it is something they couldn't control. I think Angus Brayshaw retiring because of concussions derailed this season from the get-go.
Yeah, it's been a big issue for him. Because you look at how much Brayshaw mattered to them. It's basically a cultural leader. Now sitting outside, completely out of the area. Now Petrarca probably won't leave. Let's be honest. There's not going to be enough compensation in the world which comes to what happens with that. You're probably asking, if Dan Houston's worth 2, Petrarca's probably worth double that. Like, there's not enough at this current point in time. And now, looking at Melbourne, they have some young talent, but it's time to blow it up.
Now, to finish off the show, we always love to look at our Nuffies multi of the week. And this week, the Friday night game is Collingwood versus Melbourne.
Now, I'll be watching keenly, but we also like to put some money on it. Now, also remember to gamble responsibly. That's always what we say. Anyway, this match we've got one that we agree upon, which is the risk is I hate doing this, but we both believe Collingwood will win.
Yes, I think Collingwood have so much to play for and they will come out flying. Obviously, they're still mathematically a chance, but we've got Collingwood for any time at $1.65.
Now, 25 touches is a lot in a game like this, but Melbourne normally have a play get that against us, and this week we think it's going to be Jack Viney. He's been in great form, and he'll probably continue that. Now, he's paying $1.42 right now. Could go anyway.
Market could change any time. We're also going to go in the form he's been playing. Lockie Schultz has obviously came up very clutch for Collingwood on the weekend, and he's been very good. So we're going to give him 2+ goal scorers. He's paying $2.55, a bit of money, but we feel like it's good value, and we can see him get the 2 goals this weekend.
Now, someone else for Melbourne who's been playing pretty well without Petrarca in the squad right now is Alex Neil-Bullen. Now, he averages around 20 disposals right now. At $1.62, I would take it.
And finally, my favourite multi, I love doing it every week because I hate this bloke with an absolute passion, but I do love seeing him. Anytime goal scorer, Mason Cox for $1.57. For the 1 week, I hope he get a goal, but I hate him.
Now, it comes around to about $10.50. I have to remember exactly how much that is, and it will change, obviously, over time. But just remember always to gamble responsibly.
That was a good show today, Jonty. I think there's a lot of nerves coming on this week about how teams are going to go. Obviously, your team's still trying to mathematically be finals. Carlton trying to lock in a spot. There's many teams and positions that can move in the 8. I think no one is locked besides Sydney. It'll be interesting to see where people finish up.
Well, like when we beat Melbourne by 300 points, realistically, no one else is going to get in after that. But no, it's going to be an interesting week. It's going to be the Sunday night game, the ridiculous time Sunday night game because it's in Perth, is going to be the best game of the round because it's going to determine one person's season.
Yes, but it could also be done before that. And I hope it's done before that because I don't know if I'll be able to cope. But we'll see how we go.
Anyway, that's been the Uneducated Nuffies for this week. As always, I'm Jonty Perry.
I'm Ethan Stone.
And stay nothing.
Go Blues.